Hey guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. My nickname is iFacePalm, and in this episode we're going to take a closer look at the Soviet Tier 8 Premium T-103 tank destroyer. And during this tank review we will be looking into whether if it's worth buying when it arrives to the premium shop again, how its tank statistics look. We will also compare it against a few of its competitors, at least in some way, because this tank is rather tricky to compare. And furthermore, we will perform an armor profile rundown with focus on its weak spots and strengths. And afterwards I will take you guys alongside a single battle that I selected for you guys today, which hopefully will give you guys a better idea of the tank in action, and most importantly what its speciality and what its strengths and weaknesses are. And finally I will finish up with a quick sum up and my rating of this tank. Let's get started. Okay guys, so is this Soviet Tier 8 premium tank anything worth? Especially as you as a World of Tanks player have so many Tier 8 tanks to choose from. The thing is, I remember when this tank was put for sale some time back, and I usually quickly walk through the general statistics to see if it's anything worth, especially when it's a tank destroyer, because in general tank destroyer are not my cup of tea. So when I was looking at the statistics the very first time, they looked quite good. But hey, it was just my first look, right? So at this point it looked very tempting, and it seemed to be just another overpowered Russian tank. But to just quickly verify, I decided to check out the various tank reviews that already existed on YouTube, and to my big surprise, it seemed to receive very bad reviews all across the board. But I was like, hey, the stats did not look that bad, or was it just me? Did I see it wrong? At this stage I started to be even more confused, of course. So I looked again and again at the statistics, I compared more comparisons, and I remember thinking there's simply no way that this tank is as bad as its current YouTube reputation makes it. And furthermore, what is this thing about this tank has no armor? So yes, I was left here with several question marks right above my head, that the figure should make this tank not completely overpowered, but it definitely shouldn't make it as bad as it was portrayed, because now it suddenly got interesting. What figure am I missing? Is it another Churchill gun carrier moment where the tank, at least on paper, looks fantastic, and then when you're driving it you very quickly realize within the first minute or two why that tank is really so bad? Is it really the same with this? But then again, this tank has a fully traversed turret. I simply ended up buying this tank, and the question is, did I regret it? Well, let's take a look guys. Okay guys, before we start to do the quick stats rundown of my current crew, yeah, there's a reason why this tank is filling the whole screen. And yes, I'm zoomed out maximum, because originally when I saw this tank it seemed like, yeah, it's just a normal tank destroyer, right? Of course, the way it looks, it reminded me that this tank most likely came out of a KV4 factory, but nevertheless it looks quite big. But how big is this tank really? So what better tank would there be to compare it against the mouse? Let's see guys how the T-103 compares against the Tier 10 mouse. And let's check again, and from the front. Simply gigantic. Okay guys, let's do the quick stats rundown with my current crew. So of course, as this is a premium tank, I can use my other Russian tank destroyer crew in it. This particular crew is primarily focused towards brothers in arms, repair skills, gun handling, and the last camouflage. Because the camouflage priority is quite low, it's simply because of the Russian tank destroyer playstyle that is usually way more aggressive than some of the other nations. For the equipment, I have fitted improved aiming, binoculars, and gun rammer. We'll go into more details in just a minute. For the ammunition, for the standard shells, 32 AP shells that each delivers 440 alpha damage. In addition, they also deal 258mm of penetration, which makes it possible to play this tank well even without using the gold ammunition, at least in most cases, and at least when you're not facing Tier 10. The shell velocity on the other hand is quite low. And now something special, because now usually I would say for the heat shells or for the APCR shells. No, check this out guys. Again, another AP shell. This is quite unique, and these premium AP shells will give you a nice addition of nearly 50 more penetration. But I must say it is quite rare that I use those, as the AP shells is more than enough in most cases. And for this particular tank I have fitted 6 high explosives, and that is primary for tanks that I will not be able to penetrate even if I use the gold shells. So when I saw very first time that this tank actually didn't have any APCR or heat shells, I was thinking, is it any cheaper then? Well, let's take a look. An ordinary AP shell will cost you 910. Yeah, 4,800. It's definitely not a strength. And for the consumables, small repair kit, small first aid kit, and extra combat rations. This tank has a very nice gun of 440 alpha damage, a nice penetration of 258, rate of fire 6.63. That means you can fire a shell every 9.05 seconds that deals 440 alpha damage. This is quite good. What this means is that this tank has a DPM of 2,917. The gun traverse speed, yes, it's only 16.71. But keep in mind guys, this is a tank destroyer. Let's put up a scenario where you're told there's a new Russian heavy tank just arrived into game, and the only information you have been told is this information. And right off the bat, will you be able to say that this tank is nothing worth? And that is the dilemma I've been faced. So the gun traverse speed is only 16.71. It's very slow, but keep in mind this is a tank destroyer. You can slightly compare it to the American tank destroyer with the fully traversed turret. As I previously mentioned, I really do not like the majority of tank destroyers, as you do not have a fully traversed turret, so every time you move you lose your camo value and the effect from your binoculars. But when playing the American tank destroyers, the problem is not that big, because you can suddenly play it as a heavy or even medium tank. So that is fantastic that suddenly it can switch from its dedicated role to take another role on the battlefield when necessary. So when this tank suddenly has a fully gun turret, that is a big plus. And you might be thinking, well, this is just a classification. This is a tank destroyer, this is a heavy tank. Well, yes and no. Because this is a tank destroyer, you will be able to get the full bonus of the improved aiming. So instead of the 5%, you suddenly get the 7% to the aiming circle side. And this is also why we are able to achieve a fantastic gun dispersion of 0.3. Yes, 0.3. This is crazy. And this is on a Russian tank. So yes, the gun traverse speed was 16.71. Check this. Gun depression -8. But yeah, of course, the gun is gigantic. And aiming time of only 2.06. If you just look at these numbers, 440 alpha damage, 258 penetration, 2.06 aiming time, and 0.3 dispersion, and a DPM of 2970. And it gets even more crazier. Okay, so the HP 1250, yeah, it's a tank destroyer. So they usually always have a lower HP pool. For the hull armor, 100mm. Quick spoiler, guys, this tank really has no hull armor. And a turret armor of 220. So you might be thinking, 220, that's fantastic. But of course, you have most likely already noticed this gigantic cupola up there. And 220mm of turret armor, you can just penetrate that with gold. So on paper, this might seem good. When you have a quick look at the tank, it really doesn't have any armor, right? And that's also the impression I've got when I was looking through the various reviews of this tank. So the engine power, 900, which offers us a horsepower of 14.16, which is neither impressive or super sluggish. And furthermore, this tank is capable of reaching an acceptable top speed of 40 an hour, but unfortunately only features a reverse speed of 12 an hour. So yes, this tank is not the fastest. The 14 horsepower per ton together with the 40 km an hour top speed, it still means that you can reposition during the course of the battle, which is so important. But the 12 km an hour in reverse speed is challenging, and it's also why this tank is usually best placed as a very long range sniper, but it can take a heavy tank role when needed. The traverse speed, 35.53, nothing special. And of course the camo value, yeah, no surprises there. Russian tanks, no view range, right? Check this. With my current setup, 531 meters of view range for a tier 8 vehicle. Yes, it gets several bonuses from the binoculars, from the extra combat rations, from the brothers in arms, recon, situational awareness skill, but still, this view range, it's awesome, simply awesome, because especially when this tank is best played at a very long range. And last, a fine signal range of 777. So guys, imagine that this tank arrives to the premium shop and you are faced with these numbers here on the right side. And one of the first thoughts in my head was, you should be able to just play it as a heavy tank, right? Let's look at it further with some tank comparison and armor profile analyze. And for this comparison, I have selected to compare the T-103 against the Su-130 PM and the German Skorpion G, but I have also included two premium heavy tanks for this comparison, the American T34 and the German Löwe. The thing is that the T-103 reminds at least me a lot in regarding the playstyle of a T34 or Löwe, because this tank is fast enough and capable of supporting the heavy tanks in a lot of scenarios. For example, a lot of the German heavy tanks, they have actually been built with the whole idea of being a heavy tank sniper, like the Tiger 1, the Tiger 2 and the Löwe, where they can excel in both fantastic precision from very far away, but also when needed taking upon the heavy tank role. But let's take a look at the numbers. Keep in mind that for this particular tank review, we're going to use effective values rather than the base values. And this is simply due to that the Skorpion and Skorpion G apparently has the exact same base and effective values, which can only be an error. And just as a quick notice, the base value shows the stats given with 100% crew skills and no equipment or consumable effects, where the effective values show the stats with all modifiers accounted for. So the DPM, the T-103 features a very nice DPM of 2458, which is slightly better than both the Su-130 and Skorpion G. And do notice where the heavy tank's DPM is. Furthermore, it features a better penetration value of 258 for the standard AP shells, where the Su-130 and Skorpion G lag slightly behind. But of course, the Su-130 and Skorpion G have the possibility of using APCR shells, which the T-103 does not. And if each of the tanks was shooting gold, then we're looking at 307 penetration for the T-103, 320 for the Su, the T-34 and Löwe offers 297 and 294 of penetration. But keep in mind, guys, that both the Skorpion, T-34 and Löwe have APCR gold shells. The Su-130 unfortunately fires heat. For the alpha damage, 440, which is quite good in itself, but yes, the Su-130 and the Skorpion G have a way better alpha damage. And this matters a lot, and especially for a dedicated tank destroyer. But the thing is the T-103 really a dedicated tank destroyer? Because yes, I can understand that the Skorpion G and the Su-130 should have very high alpha damage, but for a tank that can take upon the role of a heavy tank, this is quite nice. And furthermore, it has the best rate of fire of 5.59, which makes it able to fire a 440 alpha damage shell every 10.74 seconds. The premium shell velocity itself, it's definitely nothing special. 870, that is a big minus for this tank. Do notice the comparison between the T-103 and the Skorpion G. It's only 50 meters per second. Personally, when I play with the Skorpion G, I get really annoyed of those 920. It really feels underwhelming. So for the aim time, 2.21 seconds. For the gun handling, the T-103 shares the same aim time as the Su-130. The Skorpion have a very nice aim time of 2.01, but I must say this figure is really misleading. And the reason for that is simply because both the moving and tank traverse figures. The fun part is we have 5 tanks in this comparison, but the tank that I'm thinking about most to compare it against is the Skorpion G. Because for some reason, the T-103, it just feels that it has a better gun handling. Even the aim time dispersion value is so much better, 0.29. With my own Skorpion G in the garage, which has achieved a dispersion value of 0.25 versus my 0.3 value in my T-103, it still doesn't feel that the Skorpion G is a light year ahead of it. And why is that? For the mobility, yeah, we are definitely lacking behind here. The Su-130 and the Skorpion G have a fantastic advantage in both the forward speed and the reverse speed. But one of the reasons why I have chosen to include the T34 and the Löwe, just check this out. Same or nearly similar reverse speeds as the T-103 and slightly slower forward speed. The thing is that all of these 3 tanks can be used as a hold down. Yes, the T-103 has a cupola, but then again, how often are you going to hit that cupola that is 500 meters away? Is it really 10 out of 10 times? Is it really that gigantic, that cupola? Or will the RNG just make your shell either fly to the left, right, or past the tank itself? And furthermore, when looking at the power to weight ratio, 14.29, nothing groundbreaking, but slightly less than its direct competitors. Do notice, guys, that even this tank has 63 tons of weight, it still has better terrain resistance on medium and soft terrain than most of these tanks. For the hull armor, we will take a look at this in a second, but quick spoiler, guys, no hull armor. And for the turret armor, 220. But do notice that both the Su-130 and the Skorpion G has 0 armor. And furthermore, not surprisingly, the tank offers no real camo values, but it features a fine base view range of 380, which is light years ahead of the Su-130 and the Skorpion G. Because a view range of 360 for a tank destroyer that has no armor and is best at sniping in very long range makes you dependent on your teammate. And in random games where you are very dependent on your teammate, at least for me, it doesn't always turn out very well. So I like that this tank is capable of taking the role as detecting the enemy tanks. This is a very vital figure, in my opinion. And last, a standard radio range of 730. Okay guys, let's take a quick look at the armor profile. Okay guys, so here we have the armor profile and we will switch to the live view. And do notice that the current ammunition that we are using is the standard 258mm penetration AP shell. So how does it look? Yeah. When you hear about this tank has no armor, yeah, these spots here, guys, it's just miracle bounces that might be able to save you. Just a quick note, guys, I don't know if this was laziness from the factory itself, but do notice the form of these cupolas. I don't know if the engineers were just too lazy, but let's switch to the visual view and zoom in. Check out the design of the lower cupolas and the upper one. Yeah, mass production in its finest. Okay guys, let's continue. So what about its turret? Can you bounce anything with it? So let's take a quick look at the angle. Really nice here. But of course, the closer you get to the turret, the less angle it features. So does it have any chance to bounce anything? So as we notice, so above the turret mantle, very nice, and even on the sides, the left and right. But of course, as we get closer, the values decrease. But they're still able to provide us, even at this area here, an effective armor that ranges between 290 to 207. We need to move even closer to the gun mantle before we start to see a larger decrease of the effective armor with figures of 220. And when we move towards the gun mantle, it features 230mm. You might be thinking there's no problem penetrating this turret because you just shoot at the gun mantle. Hey, wait a second, look, we're still shooting the gun mantle and suddenly, what is this? 456mm, and check this. Yeah, so suddenly something happened. Let's take a look at the right side. Yeah, we have around 260mm here and 230 here. And the strange part is that when you go closer to the turret itself, you suddenly get additional 30mm of armor. So suddenly, with a 258mm penetration shell, you only stand around 50% chance to penetrate it. So what about above the gun? So here again, we have around 240 and 270 and back again to 240. And if your shell is the upper part of the gun mantle, then yeah, good luck. And of course, hitting the gun itself, absorbed. To give give you guys a slightly better idea of the weak spots, I'll change this AP shell to the other AP shell that has 307mm of penetration. Yeah, that'll like quite a lot. But do notice still, guys, that you only reach 100% chance when your shell hits this area and furthermore here. And if we use this tank hull down, then the changes are unfortunately nothing special, as we can see here. And the strange part is that suddenly the very well armored part, the upper part of the turret mantle, actually is easier to pen. Yes. So let's move the turret back again. So it's pointing at us. And let's look at the figures again. Yeah. Okay guys, so let's switch back to the ordinary AP shells of 258mm penetration. Let's see if you can side scrape in this behemoth of a tank. Yeah. Yeah, nothing special here, unless of course you angle your armor of 70 degrees. But still, even if you do, because the turret is actually placed on a gigantic plate just to hold the turret in place, it always opens up opportunities to be able to pen it from inside, as you can see right here. 220, 200, 150, 180, and finish with 72mm. There's nothing out of the ordinary here. Just place the shell anywhere here, but not here. We're featuring around 170mm here, but quickly go down to 100mm, and this figure continues. And the same for this part of 100mm, and for the lower part 100mm, with a few exceptions. And for the rear part, this turret is gigantic. Yeah, around 60mm for around 45 plus, and 60mm and 60. So yeah, on paper it says that you have 220mm. It would definitely not be surprising that those 220mm at the first glance might not tell you the full truth about this tank. Saying that this tank has no armor whatsoever, that is a misstatement in my opinion. Okay guys, let's take a look at a gameplay I have recently had. Okay guys, so here we are on the airfield in the Soviet T-103 T8 premium tank destroyer. And for this particular battle, we are top tier. Do notice that the enemy team, well, and our team of course, has quite a lot of heavy tanks and tank destroyers. So this could look quite good. So because of this reason, because yes, we could go in and camp here at the at this spot here, but because of that the enemy team has actually 6 heavy tanks, I'm choosing to go this location here. Especially as we have some also heavy tanks that apparently want to move down on the J line for some beautiful reason. So at least for currently, I'm feeling like I can provide more support here. So yes, I'm hiding behind a bush, but yeah, keep in mind guys that yeah, this tank is quite big. So having actually finding a bush that can cover fully your tank can at sometimes be quite challenging. You actually find yourself, the whole turret itself is just pointing above the bush or rock itself. Trying to fire a shot. That was a bad shot. See, there's already a lot of movement. I got spotted. Check the shell. Yeah, 488 alpha. Beautiful. So yeah, the reverse speed of this tank, it's not the best. And yes, I'm way closer than I actually should be, but the location here is so powerful on this map itself, so I'm hoping that the reverse speed of this position will be enough. But yeah, if they decide to rush in and just put a few tanks YOLO at me, I will stand no chance of escaping. Let's try to make a blind fire there. Because this tank reloads in just 9.05 seconds, it just feels like I can just take that extra few shells. Well, shells, I definitely took one in now. But just take that few extra shots. It doesn't annoy me that much when I miss. Especially when I compare it towards the Skorpion, because the Skorpion should be like extremely precise. Especially when you have like an effective value of 0.25. It just doesn't feel that super precise. I'm thinking if I can track this guy, maybe the Pantera can put in some shells. It's a bit hard to see whether he has the correct angle to do that. This direction, yeah, it seems so. Yeah. See if we can fire another shell in. Probably will get away now. Yeah, oh, maybe. This current stage, it's 2-2. Looks kinda stalemate at this stage. Nothing out of the ordinary for this map at least. It is only like surprising that we have a KV3 around the J45 area here. Wouldn't surprise me if that KV3 is going to die within a second or two, or a minute or two. Okay, so we're already behind 2000 HP. There's not much happening at this stage here. Even the enemy seems to have more heavy tanks here, but yeah. Come on, come on. Can I get a shield from that? Ah, beautiful. It is a nice alpha damage on this gun, I must say. The 440. I was asking myself the question the other day. If I would like this gun, because if I shell into this, yeah. I was asking myself the question whether so much action as soon as let's see if that guy's in trouble. Maybe I can support him. Ah, above, yeah, beautiful. I was a bit afraid I will hit our own tank there. Okay, no damage. Ah, nice, nice, nice. 6-9. Okay. So the enemy team seems to have the upper hand. Yeah. Anyway, I was asking myself the question whether, if this tank had a 390 alpha damage gun but was more rapidly firing, would I enjoy this tank the same way? And I must say that I don't think I would like this tank. What? To get away there. I don't think I would like this tank in the same way I do here, because that 440 alpha damage, it means a lot. It really takes a gigantic chunk out of the enemy tanks. Especially for a tank destroyer that is on long range, because as soon as usually you hit a tank for the first time, the enemy just disappears. They just hide to find the first rock or just retreat, and you lose that opportunity. That's like one of the reasons why some of the nationalities, like the British for example, they have an extremely low alpha damage. Fantastic DPM on many of the tank destroyers, but the alpha damage per shell is so bad. So it is often I find myself, I fire one shell and deal mediocre damage at best, and that's it. So that's why the alpha damage matters so much, at least for me. This can get a bit tricky because now they're going towards our cap. Let's see if can I hit this? Oh, maybe. Yeah. It's a good chance I was going to hit one of the buildings there. Soldiers to a meal is going there. Yeah. It looks a bit special at this current stage. It's 12-11. Seems to... we should have a nice HP advantage. The question is always how much can we trust those figures? Should be good. Okay, now they put two tanks there. Definitely have to decap. I hope I will get our teammate behind me with me. Yeah, it seems so. Nice. The Maulbrecher will be way too slow to get there. Our other Waffenträger is moving the sea line. 23 seconds. Come on. I really need our teammate to come in with me at the same time. I don't want the enemy team to just focus and kill me off. But the question will be, of course, can I even spot them? Where are they? 10 seconds. Oh, there we have one. Come on. Can I put shield into him? He's not moving. Oh, nice. I was expecting him to retreat. And it's not even attacking me, okay? Nice. Luckily we can just smash those buildings. Hello. And now something here is walking to life. Yeah! T-103. 4,239 damage. Not bad. So there we are, the Soviet Tier 8 Premium T-103. So the question remained, was it worth it for me to purchase this tank? Well, in some ways, it is still quite a tricky question, but I do want to add a quick comment to the replay we had. The replay itself was nothing special. Yes, the final damage output was nice for this particular game, but in general it is not uncommon for this tank to deal around 2000 damage. As long as you can take a proper and safe distance, yes, the tank is huge. Very. It has extremely bad camo value, the gun traverse is extremely slow, the shell velocity is nothing special, and it doesn't even feature any special premium ammo. Furthermore, it has no hull armor, and a bad reverse speed, and a gigantic cupola. In some ways this tank reminds me of playing the Jagdpanzer E100. You can temporarily deal loads of damage, but when you are caught out alone, then you do not stand much of a chance. You are simply too sluggish to escape. This tank with its 12 km/h reverse speed feels this way, and therefore to use it most effectively, you should always have an escape plan. In the replay we just saw, I really did, but that was my gamble for that game. It might just as well just have gone bad, where one or two of these heavy tanks would have pushed instead and just killed me off. But let's try to run through its strengths. So it has good alpha damage, it has a full traverse turret, it has a fine gun depression. Because it's a tank destroyer, it can take full advantage of the improved aiming module. You have a good aiming time of 2.06, you have a good dispersion value of 0.3, you have a fine average damage per minute of 2970, you have a fine turret armor of 220, yes, with its weak spots. But still, you have an acceptable top speed of 40 an hour. And last, you have a very nice view range of 531. The amount of positive figures on this tank simply seems staggering. Let's take another scenario, guys. Imagine you were looking at the good figures for any tank class in the game, and you were presented with this. And what took me through some hours of analyze is the question I had is, why do I enjoy more the T-103 rather than the Skorpion? Because it should stand no chance in comparison. So when looking at the figures, I can only point towards that the sheer amount of strong advantages that this tank destroyer has makes it overall more flexible. Yes, it sounds strange for a tank that is way slower, but hear me out. The T-103 has 20 meter more base view range, which matters a lot. Gun handling is better in the heat of the battle, and this tank actually can bounce shots with this gigantic turret. Furthermore, you can use this tank destroyer as a heavy tank support, and in addition, you can hit targets way more precise when on the move. This tank destroyer still puzzles me though, and somehow, at least for me, it just feels that more enjoyable playing than with the Skorpion, which I personally should enjoy way more, but I don't. Firing while moving, the hull and turret just feels so much more precise, and when I miss with the T-103, it just feels more acceptable. But when the Skorpion misses, it just feels frustrating, as the gun, at least on paper, should be so much more precise, especially with an effective gun dispersion value of 0.25. Some might say it's Russian bias, but I honestly think that we might be led to believe to put way too much expectation on the gun dispersion values, at least when fully aimed. I know I am. And this would also explain better why tanks with 0.4 or more gun dispersion, means Russian, seems to be able to hit just as accurate as the German 0.3 guns. Yes, it's not a competitive tank, and it's not one of my preferred tanks. I have plenty of other tier 8 tanks that I would prefer to play any day, but for those days where I just want to play a long range, hard hitting tier 8 premium sniper and earn some credits, then this tank surprisingly seems to do the job quite well. Personally I enjoy very few tank destroyers, but strangely enough, I enjoy this gigantic and sluggish monster that is filled with weak spots all over. So how many facepalms would I give the T-103? And here I was faced with a slight dilemma, but in the end it came down to how much do I enjoy this tank, and in how many scenarios I can do what I planned to do from the beginning of the game. And therefore this T-103 Soviet Tier 8 premium tank receives 3 facepalms. Okay guys, I hope that this tank review was helpful towards your decision on whether to buy it next time it arrives in the premium shop. And as always guys, thanks a lot for watching guys. This was my tank review number 17. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know what you think of the Soviet T-103 in the comments below. And as always, if you like to see more crazy content from my side, feel free to leave a like or even subscribe. It's a big thumbs up for me and I appreciate it a lot. Cheers guys, take care and see you next time.